All right, guys, welcome back to our video notes. Today we're going to be talking about translations, and the date for this is going to be 12/3/15 because we're going to be doing the activity tomorrow based on this. All right, so let's just talk about the definition for a transformation. A transformation is a change in the size, location, or orientation of a figure. So let's go on and put those in. Okay. So there it is. Take a moment to write those words, the definitions in. A transformation is a change in the size, location, or orientation of a figure. So right now, when you're, we just did reflection. That didn't affect the size. It did change the location and maybe the way the orientation of the picture looked, but the size did not change. And the size is not going to change when we do our translation either. A translation is a transformation which slides each point of a figure the same distance in the same direction. All right, so let's take a moment and write those in. All right, I'm going to give you a minute to write those in. Again, a translation is a transformation which slides. All right, and I don't know if you remember, but back in 5th grade when you learned this, your teacher said that SL in the word translation, that the SL in translation right here is the SL for slide. All right, so then the resulting figure of a transformation is called the image, and we've talked about that already. So let's go on and write that one in really quickly. Oh, sorry. That's my coffee. Okay. So, for example, here's our example one. We're given with, this is our original image of triangle A, B, and C. And it says triangle A, B, and C is translated 1 unit right and 4 units up. Okay. So, think about it for a moment when you're dealing with going on a number line. And if you're going 4 units to the right, would that mean that you would be adding or subtracting on a number line? Okay? You need to keep in mind that if you're going to the right, that means to add. Okay? And I'm going to write that in over here to the side. Okay? I'm actually going to just put it in here. If you're going to the right, okay, this is talking about X. All right? You're going to add. That's really sloppy looking. Let me erase it real quick. Okay, if you're going to the right, you're going to add. If you're going to the left, you're going to subtract from your X. Okay, now this is all just focusing on X right now because your X is the one that tells you whether you go right or left. Remember, here's your number line. If you're adding, this is the X. So if you're adding, you're going to the right, which makes it a positive. If you are going to the left, you're subtracting. This is how you tell if it's a rule, and this will make a little bit more sense in just a minute. So now let's talk about with the Y. Obviously, when you're dealing with Y, when you go up on the Y-axis, you're going in a positive number section, so you're going to add. And then when you're going to add when you go up. And then obviously when you're going down, you're going to subtract. And this all has to deal with when you go to write it in as a rule. And this also only applies, the up and down only applies to what you do to the Y part of the point, of the coordinate point, okay? Up and down goes with Y, okay? And right to left goes with X. And if it's right, you're adding to X. If it's left, you're subtracting from X. If it's up, you're adding to Y. If it's down, you're subtracting from Y, all right? And if you read it, sometimes it'll tell you it in words like it does here, translate 1 unit right and 4 units up. So that means that my points for A, B, and C on my X, I'm going to add 1 to my X, and I'm going to, since it says 4 units up, I'm going to add 4 to my Y, okay? So I'm going to kind of scroll this up a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. Okay, so if you look down here to the left, they give us our points for A, B, and C, okay? Now I'm going to write down the rule, which is dealing with the +1 and +4, okay? So if I was to write down the rule, all right, remember, if I'm going right or left, that's dealing with X. So what I'm saying is, because I'm going to the right, I'm going to add 1 to X. Now that's just the rule for X, okay? And then for Y, it says I'm going to go up 4. So I'm going to do Y plus 4, okay? And I'm writing this right here, even though it's down a little bit below, you can't see it. It's really sloppy. It's been a while since I've done this, and I left my stylus at home. Sorry, guys. Anyway, so X plus 1 and Y plus 4. That means that when you look at these points right here, these ordered pairs, for x right here on A, I'm going to add 1, which is going to change that to 2. And to the negative 3, I'm going to add 4, which is going to change that to a positive 1. All right, so let me write down what I just told you. So look at point A, okay? And it's 1, negative 3. All right? To my x part, I need to add 1. So right here, I'm going to add 1 to that. Well, 1 plus 1 is going to give us 2. Okay? And then for the y part, I'm going to add 3. Well, negative 3, or not 3, I'm going to add 4, right? Because it says my rule over here says to add 4. So negative 3 plus 4, well, that's going to give me a positive 1. So then my new point for A is going to be 2, 1, and that's going to be my new image. All right? So for B, if my B is 3, 0, and with my X, I'm going to add 1, my X now becomes a 4, okay? And my Y says I'm supposed to, back over here to my rule, my Y says to add 4. So I'm going to add 4 to my Y. So 0 plus 4 is going to give us 4. So that's the new point for B. Okay? All right, so let's look over at C. Point C is 4, negative 2. So I'm going to go and do C. So I've got 4, negative 2. Okay? And I want to add 1, right? Remember my rule says x plus 1. So where x is, I'm going to add 1. So now I have 5. And then negative 2 plus 4 is going to give us 2. So that's my new point for C. And then when I go to graph it, those are the new points that I'm going to graph, and that's just the translation of what I've done. All right? So my new points, and this is probably going to be a little harder for me to do since I don't have my stylus. A1 is going to be 2, 1. So 2, 1. Yep, like I said, a little bit harder. Give me a minute. Let me go on and plot it. Let me take a moment to do this. Okay. Not the prettiest, but you see the point. And then right here, I can't really write it in very well without taking up a whole lot of space. This is going to be this 2, 1 is your A1. So make sure on your paper you put A1. And this point right here is going to be B1. And then this one would be C1. All right? So right here, this part right here, it's very important that you remember that going right to left is for X and going up or down is with Y. Okay? Up being adding, down being subtraction. Right being plus, left being subtraction. All right? So make sure you have that graphed. We're going to go on and go scroll down to where it says, as a general rule, this translation could be written as. And what do you think we're going to put there? We kind of already wrote it, but let's just see what we need to put there. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what this A with the asterisk is there for. I have no idea, to tell you the truth. And it looks like my notes are looking a little different from yours, like my graph's not showing up either, which is a problem. So what we'll do is I've got at least the points, and so we can at least do that part. And tomorrow in class, we'll talk about the graphing part, okay? I'm sure you can graph it, but we'll just check it in class tomorrow to make sure we all graphed it correctly. Okay, but like I said, not sure why this A to the asterisk is there. All right, so our rule for that one, though, was we added 1 to X, and we added 4 to Y. And now we're going to move on to example number 2. And like I said, the graph is in here. I don't know why. This is the same paper that I sent to y'all, and I guess for some weird reason in my email it didn't upload correctly. I have no idea. All right, so right here, whoops, excuse me. All right, we're going to do 4 units to the left. Remember, left or right's talking with X. So that means the rule for this would be X minus 4, because I'm going left, and then 5 units up or down dealing with Y. So then Y plus 5. That's the rule, okay? And the way that you write the rule is this is the proper way. And you draw a little arrow, X, Y, and then it's going to translate to X minus 4 and Y plus 5, okay? So you go ahead and graph these whenever we get done taking the video notes. Let's just focus on the actual getting the new points taken down. All right. So if my J is 0, 2, my X is 0, I need to subtract 4 from that. So when I do 0 minus 4, that gives me a negative 4. And then 2 plus 5 gives us 7. All right. Then look, so that's the new point for J. Then let's go on over to K. All right. K is the X for K is 3, so 3 minus 4 is -1. If you're still struggling with your integers, make sure you're using a calculator to do this, because if you're adding or subtracting your integers incorrectly, you're not going to graph them correctly either. Okay? And then y is 4, and 4 plus 5 is 9. All right, so let's go to L. If my x is 5, I'm supposed to subtract 4 from x, so 5 minus 4 is going to give us 1. And then 1 plus 5, because I'm adding 5 to y, is going to be 6. So when you do this at home after we get done, you're going to want to plot these points, connect the triangle, and then you're going to plot these points and connect and label the triangles as well. All right? And then if we scroll down, okay, it's talking about the rule, which mine, like I said, is missing stuff. I don't understand exactly why. Okay, this should be an arrow. Mine's giving me an A for some reason. So xy translated to x minus 4 and y plus 5. And that's the rule. Okay. Would these figures be considered congruent, or would they be considered similar? All right. If you look at the pictures, obviously, just like in reflections, we're not shrinking the picture and we're not enlarging it. So therefore, they're going to be congruent. Okay. Okay. My table obviously looks like it's shrunk in the wash or something. I have no idea. All right, but it's the exact same table as what you have, except for the fact that you can't really read it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write which way you're going. So if you're adding, I'm going to put an R for, obviously, you're going to go to the right. Okay? Or I'm going to try to write an R. If you're subtracting, you're going to go left. Okay? For the y coordinates, if you're adding, you're going to go up. And I'm just going to point an arrow up. Okay? If you're subtracting, then you're going to go down. Okay? And then let's go to this next part. Okay? Example 3, write a general rule which describes the translation below for triangle LMN. So first off, we need to figure out which one is our original. All right? This one is the original because we don't have those little ones in the little corner. Okay? So we want to figure out what was the rule that we did right here. Okay? Yeah. All right. So let's go on and do that. So right now, obviously, I'm shifting up and over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down what point L is. And then I'm going to write down what point L1 is to see how they changed. And that's how I can figure out what the rule is. So my L, start at your origin. I went to the left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So -5. And then I went down 1, 2. So -5, -2. Okay? And then my new L is right here. And I started my origin and I went over 1. And I didn't go anywhere else. All right? So obviously, if you look at the picture, you can tell that we went up. So that means that the rule for y is going to be adding. And obviously, we shifted to the right. So that's also going to be adding. So we just need to figure out how far we went over. Okay? So we went over 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So is -5 plus 6. Let me restate that real quick. Is -5 plus the 6 that we went over equal 1. If I applied the rule, would -5 plus 6 equal 1? Yes, it would. All right, so then the rule for x is going to be, I'm going to write on this graph right here, so don't even worry about it, because yours doesn't look like mine. The rule for x would be x plus 6, because I shifted to the right. Now, let's look to see how much we went up, okay? So I went up 1, 2. So is -2 plus 2, 0? Of course it is, -2 plus 2. So then the rule for y would be y plus 2. And that's our rule for that translation. Okay? Okay, let's see. Take a moment to look at that. All right, and we're going to go on and do example 4. Okay, this graph right here is going to be used for example 4. I'm going to do example 4 with you from A, B, C, D, E, and then you're going to do F on your own, okay? And this is going to be the last example that we do. The practice problems we'll do in class tomorrow to see how we do with those. All right? So the last example is going to be example 4. And we're only going to go A through E together, and then F you're going to do on your own. Okay? So it says graph points T, U, and V and connect the points to make the triangle. So let's go on and graph them. Okay? So T is going to be 0, 3. So you start your origin. I don't go anywhere on the x-axis, up 3. There's my T. U is 2, 4, so 2, 4. And V is 5, negative 1. And that's as close as I'm going to be able to get. And then let's connect the dots, actually. Well, I don't know what I did. Hang on one second. I want to use a thinner line. Okay, so that's not the best looking circle, okay? This graph's a little bigger so I can actually label it. This is T, U, that looks like a V. Let's make it look more like a U. And then here's V, okay? And then it says we're going to translate it, and we're going to subtract 3 from X and subtract 1 from our Y, okay? So like we did when we did the reflections, I like to write down my points and then actually do it before I plot it. So I'm going to go on and do that now. So my T is 0, 3. And my U is 2, 4. And then V is 5, negative 1. All right? And so my new T, it says right here, here's the rule. From X, take away 3. So then here on T, 0 minus 3 is going to give me, let me put the new ones in blue. Stands out a little bit more. So that's going to give me negative 3. And then it says for the Y, take away 1. So negative 3, negative 2. Or not 2, not negative 2. 3 minus 1 is just 2. See, even I make mistakes. That's why it's important we watch what we do. All right, and then for U, it says take away 3. So then 2 minus 3 is going to give us a negative 1. And then 4 take away 1 is going to give us 3. And then for V, 5 minus 3, V1, the new one, 5 minus 3 is going to give us 2. And then negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. So now we want to plot those points. So negative 3, negative 2. So let's do that. Negative 3, positive 2. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, positive 2. All right, let me plot those real quick. All right, so let's go in and look at our points, and I'll give you a minute to plot them. All right, so it said negative 3, 2. So negative 3 up 2. So that's going to give us T1. All right, and then the other one is negative 1, 3. So origin, negative 1 up 3. That's going to be U1. And then over here, we end up with 2, negative 2, and that's going to be V1. And then we're going to connect our dots. Obviously not the best, okay? And that's what that's what you should have right now. And that is step C. Oh, we haven't done step C. Okay, so we translate it, and then D says draw the image. Well, here's the new image. And then E says to identify the coordinates. Well, here's your coordinates, which is why it's best that we go ahead and do this anyway, because you need to be able to tell me what they are anyway. All right, so in words, what does this tell us to do? Well, the rule tells us to go left what? Go left 3. So, left 3 units. And we subtracted 1, so because we're subtracting, it would be down 1 unit. Okay? Left 3 units and down 1 unit. All right, and you're gonna do F by yourself. All right, don't forget your homework that you need to turn in tomorrow. And like I said, tomorrow we'll do the rest of these examples in class and we'll check the graphs as well. Have a good night. See y'all tomorrow.